Welcome back to Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed. I'm Juliette Hahn with my co-host, Brent Sopel. How are you?
The question is, should I ask, how are you?
I'm a little wacky, to say that. I have not had my ample amount of sleep, and I've been waking up and fucking hormones. And so, let's just say I'm a little spastic. But I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We have almost at graduation. By this time this has gone out, my child will have graduated, and hopefully I'm not as crazy. Oh my God. He came home and he's like, I got my gown. I was like, I'm going to record. I can't see your gown. I will lose it. He's like, okay, crazy lady.
Yeah. I agree.
I was like, just give me a second. Yeah. How are you though? You're doing well on this Monday?
Gowns, I hated those gown and cap, and the dumbest, the gayest thing in the world.
The material's not good. It's not good for like breathing if it's like heavy, and yeah. It is not the best look. And it's been like, just like we're talking about education, they haven't changed anything up. It's like still back in the day. I mean,
Again, school and me aren't friends. So either was the cap and gown BS and the picture BS and the whole thing BS. And
yeah. Well, we're diving into that. We'll just leave it at that, because I don't want to talk about it anymore, because then all of a sudden I might start crying. And
all right.
I think right now I'm not a crazy emotional woman.
Would you say you're not right now? Okay.
Well, meaning like I'm not ready to like be in a pool of, before I say it and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh fuck, I feel it, and then I can't stop it and I just go. I'm saying I'm a little bit more of the I have like that irritated energy. I'm like frustrated a little today. We'll just leave it at that. So today though, we, as we always do, kind of talk about different things. I said to you, I know what we're going to talk about. I got it. Just go with me. So a number of conversations we've had in the last, I would say like month, with very successful people that are dyslexic have, talked about all the positives about their dyslexia. And then we always go into, and this is what you say, I take this a little bit different. My approach is a little different.
How am I supposed to take that? Like, somebody asks, what's the reaction to it when I do say that?
Well, no, this is what I love. And that's why we like the new kind of social media campaign that we're going to be, which have already started when we're doing this. So people might be like, oh, I get the correlation now. And this is why I wanted to talk about this. One of the things that's really interesting is people stop and they're like, wait, what's that statistic again? And it's usually the 50% of inmates in prison are dyslexic. And that, even though I've seen both sides, because obviously you and I working together for now over a year, I've seen your realist side, and I totally get it, because it's not always fruits and berries. I know that's not the saying, but that's what I'm saying. What is it? Flowers and balloons? I don't know.
Maybe in New York it is, because I don't know, not where I've ever been.
So whatever the saying is, that it's rainbows and unicorns. That's what it is. It's not always rainbow and unicorns. Fruits and berries, whatever I said, balloons and flowers. It's not. And I've seen both sides, right? I've seen like all, and as we've talked about, if you guys have not listened to back to the beginning, it's very cool, because I actually went back and listened to the first 5 after season 1 was done, because I was like, I just want to see where we were and like how we flowed together and all these different things. And I said to you, I was like, oh, I was pleasantly surprised at how we flowed, because before we started the podcast, before I stalked you to get you to start the podcast.
At least you're admitting it now.
I don't think I stalked you. I mean, first of all, I don't think that was a stalk. If that was a stalk, that was a pretty poor stalk, but whatever. I was persistent.
Stalk to stalk.
Whatever it was before, I am a positive person. I mean, I'm born positive. I see the positives in most situations. But when we started talking, I also saw your side, which then brought up some of my stuff. I was like, oh, I kind of liked seeing the positive side. I don't really want to go there. Oh, this is so emotional. Even though I thought I had dealt with it. So that was one of the things that was, interesting, because when we started doing it, I've seen both sides. So now going on these meetings, and when the person is really positive, I kind of giggled to myself, because I was like, oh, here
it comes. You're not going to like this.
Exactly. Oh, you're stirring the bear. You're poking the bear.
Well, and that's it because um I've never found the positive side of dyslexia. Again, now I'm starting to see that. So, did I play in the NHL as long as I did because of it? Absolutely. But it's taken me almost 50 years. I'm almost 50, staring the barrel to get there. And it's obviously because of you in the last year. So as they're sitting there talking about rainbow and unicorn, I'm on the other side of no, it's
Right.
not.
Right. And we have, and this is what I love also is we've discussed this in different ways, but it's
Yeah.
been brought up again. And anyone that has listened to us knows that when things are brought up, I'm like, oh, we need to pounce on that. We need to jump on that and talk about it because that's kind of what the universe is saying. Hey, I think you need to talk about this again. So when we say that and they stop and then they bring it up 5 or 6 times afterwards, what really hit
Oh,
me is the thing about what you said about the inmates. And
yeah.
the thing that usually they say is, oh, it's terrible that the system failed them and blah, blah, blah. But what I said when I heard that statistic, literally, it was like a gut punch because I was like, all of those brilliant minds behind bars that actually could be the next person to save the world or do something really cool. And we're not giving them that
Yeah.
experience. And that's what really hit the nail. And then when we say that, they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like they don't even get a chance before I mean, usually it's, the areas are obviously the majority, the areas are not great. However, I mean, you've been in situations where it's been, very wealthy people and their kids in prison because
Yeah.
of their dyslexia.
So the money aspect, it, if you have money, you able to find resources to get that diagnosis? Absolutely. Now, to get help, 100%, but doesn't stop you from not connecting with anybody.
Right.
You know, obviously now in the world, and being here in Chicago, obviously they're talking, all the murders and the shootings that go on here on a daily basis, and all the migration, the immigrants, and all that stuff. They turn on the news and there's this shot. We'd all be doing the same goddamn thing if you can't read, right? They're just trying to survive. You can say they grew up in there, and that's how that's what their culture. Say whatever you want, but if you can't read, what do you have? Right? They're just trying to survive, and we'd be all doing. Every single one of us would be doing the same thing, to survive. If you can't read, and
And
it's
yeah, go ahead.
go
Sorry.
ahead. No, it's just sad when I sit there. That's thing comes in my head going. They're just they're just trying to survive. And I said it to a cop the other day. I'm like, you're chasing me down the street every day, dyslexic.
Right. And he probably was like, well, I mean, but this is where people don't think about this. And this is where you have then saw, okay, I saw where my dyslexia was a gift because you didn't want to go to school. You were able to go and play hockey because of being in Canada, right? If you were in a different area that didn't have hockey and you didn't have things that you could find what your gifts were and you didn't have that path. So, right, when you say, yeah, your dyslexia actually was a gift in that world. However, when you got out of that world, your dyslexia fucked you,
Well,
right?
let's talk about you're 100%. You obviously growing up in Canada, we're in Saskatchewan, where we're at outdoor rinks. It was I don't remember Halloween without 2 feet of snow. So I was able to spend hours and hours and hours and hours on the outdoor rink. I was able to every school in Saskatchewan has an outdoor rink. I had a little one in my backyard for a few years, so I always had access to that. Again, you go to other places, they don't have outdoor rinks that much, as many. So I was able to find where I got my self esteem. Obviously, we know that hockey. You know, everybody's like, "Oh, you were successful. You won a Stanley Cup. I'm one of like 1,200 ever to do in the world." Absolutely. But when we talk about that, and I look back, reflect, everything that's gone on, I've probably got more pain than I do enjoyment, or excitement or anything on that side of thing from hockey. So it made me get there, did what I did, but that doesn't come with masses of trauma and pain, from this.
Right. And so that's the thing. And that's why when we're talking about this, there are certain areas that the kids have no access to anything that gives them self-esteem. They don't have the family life. School is that they don't have the act. I mean, school is like, okay, you're not
Oh,
reading. They kind of just brush you. I mean, there's 0% graduation rates in some of the schools in the cities. I mean, it is horrific. And some of these people are dyslexic. What state is it? Indiana? Not Indiana. I always say Indiana. What state is it that they have been testing inmates for dyslexia?
Louisiana.
Louisiana. So
Mhm.
when they go, right. So, and there's like certain things that it is pockets that know this, right? And know, okay, this is something that is a problem.
Yeah, because obviously the senator, in that state's got a dyslexic daughter, so they're huge in that. So they're the first state to um, instate that to get inmates tested. Once they get inmates tested, then they have a roadmap, and that's what we talk about all the time. You know, is that roadmap of life? You know, I can look back now, and now I know why I did certain things. But if I had a roadmap, and what that roadmap is understanding, it makes life a whole lot easier. You know, doesn't mean you're not going to have scars or bumps or bruises along, but it's not a round peg in a square hole. No, if you roll round, round and around. Once you have that roadmap, we talk about get diagnosis, get tested. And people always talk about labels. To me, it is that roadmap. And the more that we can find that roadmap for every single kid in that world, no matter what you have. No, let's just talk to autism. Obviously autism's, I think it's 1 in 40 right now, not hereditary, but they've got the infrastructure, they've got the understanding. So when somebody does get the diagnosis of autism, they know where to go and what to do and how to handle it. And we don't. People are scared of those labels. That label can really change the direction of your kid's life because you have some more understanding. Now, let's let's just say that you have two schools. You've got a dyslexic school, autistic school, and I'm just making things up, and a normal school. Say I'm don't get the diagnosis, but you think I'm autistic, so you're going to put me in autistic school, but I'm actually dyslexic. Am I supposed to be there? No. But without that roadmap, you don't know where you're supposed to be. So the quicker it is to find out what that is, the easier it is for everybody, and as a parent's life too. Is it hard? Absolutely. I've lived it, gone through it. My daughter yelling at me, "That's not always dyslexia, Dad." Thanks for sharing it. So never easy, but a lot easier when you have some understanding.
Mm-hmm. And it's so true. And it is, as you said, having that roadmap. And that's the same with the IEP, where it shouldn't say just like specific learning disability, because that's not giving the teachers. I mean, and we talk about, that's pretty much every single one. Dyslexia has nothing to do with your IQ. We know that a lot of times we're smarter, but there's so many different things with, there's a lot of, on social media, when things are being talked about, you get kind of pushed different videos. So right now, like my whole feed is,
Yeah.
about kids and play, because that's really how kids learn. And it is really true, though. It's really true that is how kids learn. Now, that's how a typical kid learns also. Like a typical kid that doesn't have any learning disabilities and a kid with learning disabilities, they can learn better when they're doing hands-on, when they're not sitting in their chair and all that. So we know that, but we still don't do it. And so then when you're taking that typical kid and they're really trying to learn there and they're struggling, but they learn typically, they can still learn in the chair, even though it's not pleasant. It's pretty miserable. Then you put the dyslexic kid or the kid with dysgraphia or ADHD, and you're putting them in a situation that now is like 3 layers down where they're already losing, right? Because it's like, okay, most kids when they're 5, 6 really shouldn't be sitting in a chair for 8 hours. I mean, what adult does that? But now, okay, we're going to do that to you. And we're going to teach you this certain way. Typical kid, okay, I can adjust. I'm processing it. So I'm putting it. So, okay, I can do this even though I'm bored. Maybe I hate school because I'm bored. But then you're, the kid with the learning disability that's like, I have no idea what you're saying because they're also not processing it. They're sitting, so they're not able to move. Some of us move. When we move, we actually learn better. I'm 100% that type of person. When I move, I learn. And so I just read something that was really interesting, and it was about curiosity. And I laughed because yes, you call
Here's
me
yours.
Curious George. Yes, Curious George. And I am so curious. And I think back even when I was little, I was the kid that asked all the questions. I was that, why mom? Why dad? Why does this do that? I asked a million questions because I wanted to learn. I wanted to do it. I, went into school excited to get, oh my gosh, I get to learn all the things that I'm doing. And then when I went to school, and then year after year, it was like, I fucking hate this place. I'm not learning. I'm not learning all the things, all the questions that I have. I can't even ask them because I don't even know what class I'm in right now because I can't keep up because I couldn't process because of my dyslexia, ADHD, dyscalculia, all those things. And so you think about how school is being taught and then all the layers that are just like, hey, we're giving you a disadvantage before you even start.
Well, every kid wants to have fun.
Totally.
Like, I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're left-handed, right-handed, bad, reading, not reading. Every kid wants to have fun. And, the chair, sitting in chair, that's a topic. Or why can't we make it fun? That's the biggest thing that I have that, we talk about this. Most teachers got involved into school because school is easy, right? Or it's a 8 to 5 or 8 to 4, summers off. You don't know how many people I've heard say that. So you're there for the vacation time. You're there for the same schedule as your kids. There is a small percentage that got in there to make a difference. So right there, we're behind the 8 ball with it. Somebody who's got summers off. That's their focus. And it's not focusing on the kids. But when I'm on the ice, I'm always having fun. Every kid, they always listen. When I yell at them, they come back and do it. Because I'm having fun with them.
Mm-hmm.
If we could have a little more fun, play a few more games of 7-Up.
I love that game.
Remember that game?
Yeah, I loved it.
I
loved that game.
It's taking whatever that curriculum is that day and throw a little spin of fun in it. And I think I always try and do that. Obviously, we talk about that no matter where. Self-esteem is the most important thing because when you don't have it, doesn't matter where you are, what company, what level, you're not learning. You're not gonna, you don't want to be there. So that's where the fun comes in it for me. Because I remember how unfun it was for years to walk in those doors.
Mm-hmm.
And what goes on in the world now, people talk about cell phones and more information out there, and kids don't want to interact. It's some of that, but I just see so many kids without a connection, without understanding of why they're struggling or why they're doing this or why they're doing that. I can look back now and go, okay, but I'm 47 years old. So a lot of them are blaming the cell phones, not focused, don't care. I was in that classroom, not focused, and didn't care. Didn't matter if I had a cell phone or not because I wasn't learning.
Well, and I mean that, and I'm going to say one thing and then we're going to get off of this, but I mean, we haven't adjusted. The world has adjusted and we're still teaching exactly the same way.
Yeah.
We need to, but there's things out there and a lot of other aspects of the world that adjust to the world. Okay, we need to make a slight adjustment here because things are different. So don't even get me started on there. But I want to also bring it to the kind of the next thing that we talked about. And one of the other things that you'll start seeing on social media as well, if you haven't already seen it, is that 75% of people with dyslexia have addictions. And that something that you say often and people stop. They're like, wait, what are you talking about? Well, I'm going to say it and then we can discuss it instead of me going the other way. That dyslexia is a gateway drug. And so I would love for you to kind of elaborate on that.
Well, so there's a couple things. First off, when we're talking to people that are successful, where they say dyslexia is a gift, or we're talking to people that want to say, celebrities, you got to get them involved in the foundation. They're the ones that are going to change it. Let's just be clear that they're in the same position. They've got no self-esteem. So I don't think anybody, and correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen anybody else in the world, people that have money, again, the uber rich, the 1%, the billionaires, right? They don't see us 95% down here. They're one of the 9%, 1%. So there's 99% of us. They're so far, gone, meaning, money wise, they don't understand reality.
And you're talking about the dyslexic billionaires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and the people in Hollywood, same thing. They don't see, us down here, normal people, right? Everybody sees them, but they don't see us.
And they see, and their dyslexia, yes, was a gift. But then when we start talking to them about, well, did you go through this when they were younger? They're like, well, yeah, I don't really want to talk about that.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to go back there. I'm over here.
I've interviewed some celebrities. I know some, and they won't go there. Will not go there. So I talk about is right now, everybody wants a road, nicely paved road to drive down. Yep. Right now, the dyslexic world is a gravel road. What I talk about and how I talk about and why I'm open talking about, I'm paving, a new beautiful road for everybody to drive down. It's my ultimate goal is so that they, the billionaires can talk about the ugly portion of it. Those people in Hollywood that they're able to talk about the ugly portions of dyslexia, because it's therapy. You got to go back and clean out those closets. And, that's what I'm trying to do. Is it hard? Yeah. Is it hard being misunderstood every single day? 100%. And that's why, when you talk about dyslexia, being a gateway drugs, I want to escape from myself. I don't want to feel myself. I don't want to feel my pain. That's what, all addictions, trauma based, right? We don't want to feel that. We want to escape from that, not fitting in, not having connection, not getting yourself. Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you want to escape from that? We all do. And then obviously suicide goes along with that. 89% of suicide notes left are dyslexic traits. Because when you don't have a connection and you feel that person, like you're that person, you don't want to be that person where everybody's in a class point, you're that kid, you're that kid. It's not fun.
Mm-mm. And so I have multiple things to say. Surprise, surprise. But one of the things one of the things that I do want to touch on, and I think it's really important, because when we talk about our story, and when and we talk about our stories in different ways. We express ourselves in different ways. And one of the things is really interesting is as we're talking to many people, especially, in the interviews, and people that with dyslexia that have said, yes, I had my struggles. I, maybe don't relate to this side, or I don't relate to this side. But one of the things is really interesting. And so you talking about the non-connection when you were younger, and that even in hockey and these different things, we've had people that will say, oh wait, you know what, I actually didn't have that when I was younger either, and I've kind of pushed that away. Or, and this is the where there's the spectrum, right? So dyslexia has a spectrum, autism has a spectrum, ADHD,
Yeah.
everything has a spectrum. And things can go from here to here and things can be in the middle. And so one of the things that I think is really interesting, but also really important, because when you're telling your story, you're connecting with people that have similar experiences. When I'm telling my story, I'm having, talking to people that have had similar experiences. One of the things that's been really cool as we're interviewing, and I'm going to bring it to like Bridget, where Bridget and I were like, well, we didn't like school, we hated school, but we were really social and we loved that part of school. So that's what like got us up and going. Mine
Yeah.
was sports. Bridget was a dancer, so she had that, and that's what got her. I was never a kid that was like, I don't want to go to school. I didn't like it. There's days that I didn't, but I went because I was like, oh, I can't wait to talk to my friends and not worry, like not even deal with school, right? And then get on the athletic field. My oldest is so much like that too. Even though he's like, I hated everything about it. He's like, I liked seeing my friends and I like, gym class and these different things where you can be social. But as we keep talking to different people out there in the interviews, it's really interesting for some of them that will say, you know what, Brent, I've never actually shared, but I had very similar experiences. I didn't have a ton of friends. I was really misunderstood. I didn't put myself out there. And thank you for talking about it because I really have shoved it. I really have stuffed it because I didn't want to talk about that. And you're very open with that. And it's because you don't want others to be like, okay, and you want to bring all the real stuff up, because when we talk to a lot of these people that are like, well, no, my dyslexia has gotten me where I am. I'm successful because my dyslexia, and rightfully so, but they don't look back and think about where they were before, because a lot of people that we're talking to have had that, like that really big success, but then they're like, oh, okay, you know what, I didn't talk about this. If you caught me 10 years ago, I might have
Yeah.
been in a different place and really remember that. So I'm going to let you speak
Yeah,
on that.
yesterday, and I forgot this to you. Just said this is so watching golf, the U.S. Open. Bryson DeChambeau won,
Yes, I saw
and
that.
his interview after his dad died a couple years ago. But he talked about being very misunderstood. You know, again when he came into the game, again created a lot of enemies. Again, he wasn't understood, but it was interesting, to hear him say that. Obviously, he's transcended the game. What he did yesterday, to win that shot was unbelievable. But he, his dad died. He said that it made him realize that there's more to life than just golf. And it's funny how many people and how many athletes are saying that. It's not even that. It's there's more to life. So it was funny, when his dad died, obviously he's, a lot, he went through a lot. And to see him do what he did, yesterday, what a shot. But he's probably the most exciting golfer right now in the game. But the way he interacts with and he talked about interacting with the crowd, he, never would do that before, right? Guys don't do that. Um, he's a different person, but like you said, he was misunderstood. So he's feeling like he's more understood so that he could be more himself.
Mm. Dan and I actually talked about it because I was like, is he yelling at the crowd? What's happening? And so then Dan took me through a bit of his story.
Yeah.
Um, I mean,
No,
just for 2 seconds, how he, engages with the, or not engage. I guess he used to yell at, whatever.
well, there was,
Right.
again, the long and short is that he was completely misunderstood by other, the fans, the game, other guys in the league, in the PGA. Obviously, he went to live over in live golf. He was able to be himself, right? He didn't have all the crowds. He didn't have that. So
Mm.
it's been amazing for him to go over there, learn about himself, grow. And like I said, the whole place is going, after him. What he's done is amazing. No ounces interacting like that, but he's being himself. What it comes down to, he learned. Um, but when somebody ever talks about being misunderstood, um, that's exactly what we are. You know, I am still today, and it's hard. It really is, and that's why I talk about, as you just said, openly for a reason, because I know how hard it is to be misunderstood, or as parents having their younger kid come home and struggling, they don't have that friend, or they didn't have that go-to, or I get it.
Yeah. And so this is the second thing that I wanted to talk about was, um, and I don't need you to comment until after I say it. Richard Branson, there was a clip that I think you sent me. And it was really interesting because, and I can't think of her name, but the founder of Made by Dyslexia or Made for Dyslexia said that kind of went to the side of, because she's always super positive, right? It's our superpower. It's this and that. She went to the side of, you know, the hard parts. And she asked Richard a question and he did not answer it. And it was really interesting.
Explain the question.
I don't know if I remember it.
Well, again, I think it went out because it was Father's Day. So
Yeah.
I think it went out because of that. So it said, just something, paraphrasing that, dyslexic struggle with self-esteem.
Oh, that's right.
And I think she said her dad and her siblings
Yes.
were her champions, because we do struggle. Now, I think she turned and said, what are your struggles? Do you still struggle?
And who do you go to and stuff like
And
that?
you go to? And he's like, yeah, I'd call my dad. So he skipped over did you struggle? And are you still struggling? And skipped over to, yeah, dad was my champion. I'd give him, I'd call him when I got things done. So most people wouldn't even catch that,
Right. Because he answered half of the question.
but because most people are don't catch that, or because they're not looking at it that way, they don't have that struggle. Immediately I'm like, right there, because he's not comfortable enough to say yes, he did struggle, or yes, he is struggling. So it just shows me that it's not all rainbow and unicorns for him. He doesn't want to go in the past, so he wouldn't answer that simple question because he's not okay with those struggles.
Yeah, and so thank you. And I knew the gist of it, but I couldn't put
Again,
it
it was
together.
paraphrasing. It could be, I will be off, so don't hold a gun to my head.
No, but that was right, because so I saw a side of her that usually doesn't do it, because she always does talk. She talks to all the, the actresses and actors. They will touch upon school was hard, and they'll say the typical thing. School was
And
hard.
I think you're right. I think that's, I think you just said a perfect point. They all will touch upon it.
Touch, but they don't go deep.
Right. And that's kind of, I think that's, they'll all just admit it. Yeah, they'll touch upon it. And I struggled, but they'll never go that next layer or the next layer. And that's kind of where I go with that next layer, because, most of us are in that layer. So they all will, people, the celebrity, whatever, they will say, yes, they will struggle, but they won't go the next 2 or 3 levels, where majority of us are.
Exactly. So, right. He said, yes, when I struggled, I would go to my dad, and my dad was always there. But then I would also go to my dad for all the good triumphs. And I go to my daughter for both. My daughter Holly, because I do remember. I remember like the kids' names. I remember like silly things. But I do remember being like, wait a second. Like I think I said to you, I go, he didn't answer the question, and you're like, exactly. And that is what's so interesting, because there's a lot of people out there that do talk about their dyslexia. People will send us stuff all the time. I loved Made by the Dyslexia in the beginning. I used to post a lot of stuff because I loved the positive spin they talked about. I loved the statistics they talked about. And then it really wasn't until you and I started talking where you were like, well, do they ever really, really talk about the real stuff? And I was like, no, but they talk about this. And right, I was unicorn. And you're like, yeah, but where's the real stuff? And again, I said to you, you're right. They actually don't. And now I'm annoyed because then I got annoyed and I switched it really quickly, because it's the people that are in the weeds, right? That they're in survivor mode. We've talked about this many times. They're in survivor mode. And when they hear about the Richard Bransons, the Albert Einsteins, all these really amazing people, and they're in the weeds and they're struggling, they actually are like, well, I'm never going to be that person. So they have no relatability with their dyslexia to that 1%. Now, when there's kids, and I'm going to take this, and I know you're going to have a lot to say in this. When our kids are young, it was important for me to show Montgomery other people that were dyslexic, right? When he first was diagnosed. Here are some really successful dyslexics. You're going to be okay. Know that this is not going to hold you back if you don't let it. Right. So that was the narrative of him. Here are the really things. But then when he struggled and he was having a hard day, I didn't go and show him, oh, look, you could be a billionaire if you don't. No, we talked about it. Honey, I'm so sorry you're having this really shit day. And when he got older, I shared with him, you know what? I was in English class and I had to read out loud. And he's like, oh, and I was like, yeah. And then my teacher called me retarded in front of everyone. Oh my God, mom, that really happened to you? And I was like, yeah. He's like, that's awful. And I was like, right. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because we don't talk about those pieces. I didn't talk about that for a long time because that's really embarrassing. That's really embarrassing to be like, yeah, I was called retarded in front of an entire class and everyone laughed. Now, I had a lot of friends. So afterwards, they were like, I'm so sorry. That was so uncomfortable. What happened? And they laughed because I called her a bitch afterwards because I was quick enough to be like, I got to get out of this situation because I'm going to start crying massively. And no, that I didn't probably use the best tactic, but I was in survival mode. I knew I was in defense mode. Don't fuck with me because I'll come back. But it's those stories that are so important in the whole scope of our dyslexic journeys, to see both sides, not just the positive sides, because there's so many people out there that are not in the positive parts of their dyslexia, and they need to know,
Yeah.
oh, that person went through that and they had that experience. But look, okay, they are okay. Or no, they became a drug addict, right? And they had all of this, but now you're okay too, and you have your days. But like it's so important to talk about. And I
Yeah,
could.
no, it's 100%. I love that. There's articles and books out there saying that Robert Einstein and all these individuals how they're successful. Absolutely, because that first diagnosis when you get it, it's scary. So, 100%. Use that absolutely. As time goes on, everybody, I want to be that person. I want to be this celebrity. I want to be that because they're not okay and don't love themselves. You know, that's what I'm all about is you've got to love yourself to want to be yourself. I want to be this celebrity, I want to be this actor, I want to be this, you know because they think it's, it looks good, it's fame. You don't, if you love yourself, you don't want to be somebody else. We have to get more people, more kids to love who they are, all their skill sets, not negative and positive, because we're all good at some things, not so good at others. you know that's the key, is getting to love that. And um everybody's got trauma, everybody struggles. Nobody's walking around in this world with desperate housewives, white picket fence. We're struggling in different ways. It's just our struggles are very hard because you can't see them. And that's why I always say, you know kids don't bully kids in wheelchairs, they bully kids like us. Because most people, when you're not dyslexic, just think how many times a day you read. Like, people say they read for fun. No, there's no fun in reading. No, no. So it's somebody's got to talk about it. You were always rainbow and unicorns, and it can be,
I still am a little
but we just have to, we have to get there. What I say, I think 5% of the world only dyslexics ever get to experience that gift of dyslexia.
bit. Hmm.
Now it's that other 95% that we're trying to touch, trying to impact. And can you imagine how many people in that 95% could change the world, can impact the world in such a positive way? Whatever that may be, changing this or doing what, guaranteed there's that out there. And that's the people that we're trying to find a way to get them to know this is a gift and you're okay and you're not alone and you have a connection. There's people out there, because that's how it's going to change the world.
Hmm. It's so true. And there is, if you're a parent listening to this and are like, okay, I hear all what you're saying. I'm lost. I still don't know what to do when my kid's having a good day. What do I do when my kid's having a shit day? What do I do? Um, and when they're having that shit day, you have to let them have that shit day. It's not like, don't worry, you're going to be fine. It's okay. Just brush off. No, let them sit in it. You don't want to sit in things too long. And we've talked about this, but you have to let them sit in it because they're having a moment where they feel shit, and it's okay to feel
We
shit.
all do. You do
And
it as
this
a
is,
mom, right?
yeah,
We did
well, and this,
yesterday. I did yesterday. We all do.
exactly. And that's the thing is this goes for dyslexic, non-dyslexic, whatever. This is just parenting and people 101 is, and a lot of times, when your kid's little, you don't want them, you don't want to see them crying. You don't want to say then, oh, you're okay. Da, da, da. But when your kid is actually not okay and you're telling them okay, you're basically it's like a mind fuck. It's like, well, no, I'm not okay, but why does she keep telling me I'm okay? And then your kid doesn't know how to regulate their own. I mean, this is, psychology 101. They can't regulate. It's not easy. You want to fix it for your kid, but having them, and I've talked about this in the past, when Montgomery would have a day and it would be like, okay, you can have a moment, be pissed off. I get it, right? Be as pissed off as you want, right? Why does this have to be you? Why does this have to you? But then I would say to him, okay, you feel better because you have to get up and put your pants on the same way every day. You have to go face the world. And this is just going to make you stronger. And then I would lift him up, right? Have the moment. You're not going to have the moment for 5 days. I'm sorry. Like this is what God gave you. You got to, suck it up, buttercup kind of thing, and not in a harsh way, but I would let him be in that feeling. I would do the same thing. Probably, we talk about when my mom came home that day and I was sitting on the stairs and she said, what's wrong? And I said, I'm so glad that God just made me ugly on the inside and not on the outside, or no, stupid on the, I'm
Yeah.
so glad that God made me stupid on the inside, not the outside. And my mom was like, oh my God, like, what 7 or 8-year-old do you want saying that, however old I was? That's heartbreaking as a parent. And
Yeah.
I don't remember what she said, but I remember, I do believe she let me sit in it. And then we talked about it and I was able to express, and it was okay. I mean, thank God I, liked myself on the outside because,
Well, as a parent, you can't fix something you don't understand.
mm-hmm.
And that's why we talk about this, to get more understanding. Obviously, your dad's dyslexic, so your mom's not. She's a teacher, so she, had pretty good understanding about it because being a teacher and married to your dad at that time, she had understanding, and that's what this is. You can't fix anything without understanding, and if you don't have, somebody's addicted to drugs or alcohol, you don't take them to an eye doctor.
Right. I'll leave it there. I'm going to do another boom.
It's your line. This is your line. You're leaving it at that. This is your line. Your favorite
Yeah.
line of the day.
Well, because I was like, oh, I like that. I mean, I could talk for, I could talk for days. I could talk falling asleep. I mean, I could talk, but I think that just really says everything that we want to say. So keep a lookout for this kind of new social media feel as we're really coming out with these quotes, conversations, because there needs to be both sides. There needs to be all stages of your dyslexia and your dyslexic journey. And this, word blindness is just that. We're giving you all stages, giving you kind of the tools and all the stages of your own or of your child's or of a loved one. And so, we appreciate you joining another episode of Word Blindness Dyslexia Exposed. You know what I say every time. Like, rate, review, and share. You don't know who needs to hear this. You don't know who right now is on their own struggles. And then this episode would actually give them some tools to be able to help someone or themselves. And another thing people ask us is like, how can we help? How can we help with the, we're sharing the podcast. What else can we do? You can go over to Apple. You can give a review. You can also give a rating on Spotify and whatever podcast player you listen to, but also send us messages. If you don't listen on any podcast player, you listen on the sopelfoundation.org or you listen to the podcast on my website, let us know because it's always interesting where people, kind of tune in. So again, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Word Blindness Dyslexia Exposed.